I was getting help for alcohol addiction through Alcoholic Anonymous, and also talking to people, and then going to church, and with time even with the counseling. But for sex addiction, actually, it's like I did it for myself, maybe through church, counseling through church, and because it was like a vice, I couldn't get out of it. But owning up to someone who was close to me before I even opened up was important for me. And then I started applying this, what we are being taught in Alcoholic Anonymous to my sex addiction, because there's 12 steps that we use in Alcoholic Anonymous are applicable for any form of addiction that you have, whether it's gambling, whether it's any form of addiction. And it has really helped. I still go for therapy, not only for the sex addiction, but also for alcohol addiction. And you know, when you're in a therapy session, anything that's bothering you, you speak it out. So that's how it has helped. Now that's how help looked like. And the most important part for me also has been opening up. I know sometimes it sounds controversial, and people ask me, hey, what about your girlfriend? What about your wife? What about all those people? What about your family? But I always ask myself, when I was waiting in line to go to, to enjoy sex, and or when I had to steal for me to go have sex, and where was my family? Where was everyone? Because now I'm being told to maybe respect them, because now presumably I'm healed. But what I've discovered is through research, if I don't open up, if I don't own up, this thing will come to haunt me. So if I'm dating, then I'm dating somebody who knows my past. I'm no angel. And I know sometimes the compulsion comes. I feel like I want to go to pipeline to those brothels, the cheapest ones, not the high ends, where I can even get 70 shillings sex. But then I remind myself, if you go, then it means you might be triggering the alcohol addiction. And let me tell you, I fear alcohol, because what it did to me for those 17 years, it's horrific. It's horrific. So anytime I feel like slipping back, I just analyze the situations I was in, those terrible situations where those prostitutes beat me up because I didn't have money. They stole my phone. They stole my shoes. One time I was, they threw me out of the room when I didn't have clothes because I didn't have money. They embarrassed me. So many things. I just recount those things. And of course I say a prayer. And I'm back. Of course, I have my counselor. I talk to her. She's a lady. I talk to her. And of course, I have my support system. And I talk to them when I feel I have those urges. And that's how I maintain myself, maintain my sobriety from alcohol addiction and also sex addiction.
You've mentioned a support system.
Yeah.
So, did you have any support from family members specifically as you were getting help and going to therapy?
Yeah, the help came. Let me just recount. In 2011, after losing my job at Safaricom because of alcohol addiction, I took myself to rehab. I walked into a rehab at Cheromo, and my family came through, because it's not that like I had money. It's only that I found myself sleeping somewhere around Westlands, roundabout, and I remembered there is a rehab. So I walked down there, and I begged and I cried my way in, and they opened for me. And then when I was in, because I didn't have a phone or anything, they called my sister. And I think my brothers and sisters contributed for me to do the detox, and it was a lot of money. And later, I attempted suicide in 2014. They still came through for the psychotherapy and all that. So they have been helping. And sometimes, of course, they used to give up on me. I went to TSC as a teacher. I lost the job. Later, they still supported me when I stopped drinking in 2017. They came through with the resources and helped me. Up to date, they still help me. Of course, now I can pay for my own therapy. sessions, because I'm also an addiction counselor, and I also train counselors at a certificate level. So yeah, the family has been there, but away from the family, the support I feel is even more important is from people in recovery. I have a group, support group on WhatsApp with over 200 members, and even out of those 200 members, over 200 members, I have the few we work with, and of course I also mentor them and they mentor me. So having a support system is important. I have someone I can call anytime I'm stuck, or anytime I feel like, wow, I want to mess, I feel like I can mess. So yes, the support system is there from both ends.
That is nice, beautiful. So you mentioned the church was very instrumental in you getting over your alcohol addiction and getting help. What would you tell churches? Because most people feel as though churches are where they are judged, actually. So I'm actually very surprised that you mentioned that you were helped in church.
No, when I talk about being helped in church, I'm talking about myself, not even in church, really. It's about reconnecting with God. See, there's a difference between religion and spirituality. So I'm talking about, of course, for me to search for God, the first place I went to was church after 2017. And even before that, I used to get born again so many times. I would find crusades and just get born again when high. I think I've born again over 40 times or 50. And sometimes I would just get born again so that I can now tell my story and tell them how hungry I was, and then they would raise money for me and I would go back to the bar. So when I'm talking about the church, it's not that I went and told my story and they supported me. Actually, I didn't even want, because even when I went to church in the village, for instance, they would look at me in a weird way. So I was more comfortable in churches in Nairobi where no one knew me. And I didn't have to share my story. I even came to talk about my alcohol addiction and sex addiction in church way later, maybe 5 years later, because I felt more now confident that this sobriety thing is working. I'm never going back. And that's how, maybe that's why I mentioned the church. I know the church discriminates against people in addiction. I've seen people being chased away. I was also chased away once in a crusade. So many, not even once, so many times, because I was bringing a bad picture. What they forget is that Jesus said he came for the bad ones. And of course, anyone drinking alcohol is supposed to be bad. And they are the people, we are the people they should have been welcoming. But of course, we were being pushed away. We were being told we are the ones who will see, will be testing the hellfire. But they never know. They never know. So spiritually, I've reconnected with my God. I feel more confident praying. I feel more confident confessing, even when I feel like I'm messing up, I'm getting weak, I'm getting frustrated with all these things. I can now talk to God comfortably. Before that, I didn't know how to talk to God. I felt like God has already judged me. I'm a candidate for hell, and that's how it was.
So how did you start rebuilding your relationship with God? Because yes, so many people who are addicted feel that way. They already judged themselves, actually. So they don't even bother praying because they think God will not even listen to them. So how do you start rebuilding that relationship?
There are so many misconceptions, maybe being preached. And what I did was, I just bought, the first thing I bought was a Bible, actually. After I got sober, the Bible, and I started reading it as like a novel. And in the Bible, I found so many stories of people who are bad, people who are rejects, people who God still used, from the weakest like David, people who didn't come from big families like Saul, so many of them, Moses, a murderer, the worst. It's like God used to go for the worst. And I would cry when I saw that. And I would get confident that while everyone was preaching about drunkards going to hell and all that, Jeremiah was being told that God had a plan
Mm.
for all of us,
Mm.
and it's not a plan for evil. It was a plan for prosperity. So I was asking myself, do you mean this Bible is only written for those who are born again? Is it for everyone? Because if it's for everyone, it also includes those who are in sex addiction, the prostitutes, the ones in alcohol addiction, the drug addicts, all of them, the sinners, everyone. He has a good plan for us. We just need to own up. And by discovering and reading the word and understanding the word without the myths and the misconceptions, I was able now to maybe reconnect with God. I finally found a friend in God, not somebody to intimidate me. Yeah, because sometimes I think how we grew up, even touching the Bible was something wrong in the family. If a child is found with the Bible, they are either scolded or something like that. Now I realized, oh, this is a book I'm supposed to have. This is a book that expresses a lot of love, and that's how I started now my new relationship with God, to a point where I got born again. For real now. For real. I got born again in just last year. It's like renewing my vows. I even don't like calling it at getting born again. It's just renewing my vows that I will work for. I'll always promote God. I'll always testify and promote what God has done for me, and I'll not fear talking about it, and He'll always be my guide, and I'll always glory be in His grace, and that's all I need to know. I don't need to speak from tongues from the rooftops and all that, and that's the same mantra I use when I'm helping the others in whether in gambling, sex, alcohol addiction. I know that the biggest rule you are given is to love your neighbor as you love yourself. So because I've loved myself first, now I'm able to love the others. Yeah.
Okay. So, any challenges of sex addiction that you went through specifically because of sex addiction?
Oh yes, the humiliation, the shame. How do I put it? Mine was even bad because it was combined with the alcohol addiction. So having to go down on your knees to even beg for sex, it was shameful. The risk of disease, of course, at one point or the other you get STDs. The risk of even worse, but by the grace of God, He protected me from all that. Being beaten of violence, because you have had sex with someone in a brothel and you haven't paid. Like I told you, at one point they carried all my clothes and I was there begging. So many things happened, or they happen in these streets of Nairobi, the back streets, that people don't want to talk about. There was also the risk of objectifying women, because anytime I would see a woman, I would think of sex. So even the spouse I had at that time, maybe we had issues because I wanted her to be like those prostitutes. But yeah, and I struggled even after recovery, stopping drinking. I struggled to respecting women, but by the grace of God again, it turned around to a point where now I don't know whether I over respect women. I defend them so much to a point where a patient at a rehab was telling me, hey, you're always on the side of women. Anytime why do you do that? But I know where I'm coming from. I'm coming from the point of recognizing how important women are. Yeah.
Wow, profound. Did it do any permanent damage, this addiction?
I think it did, and it's something that I've been talking to my counselor about, because I have had problems with my relationships, because I don't know whether it's the emotional pain that I suffered, but for me, you see the way you're in a relationship and the lady the woman, the spouse, your partner, thinks she can maybe shift the power dynamics by, because of the conjugal rights. For me, sex is never a big deal. So she might think that she is denying me something, and I won't even have, I don't even mind. It's like I have had this thing for so many. What are you telling me? So that has affected me. The attitude sometimes, that attitude affects my relationships, and I've struggled. I'm telling you, Naima, I've struggled. I think I'm now in my fourth or fifth serious relationship. From the mother of my child, she quit. Tried getting back with her. Tried another one, and most of these are serious people who I even take home and I even go to their places. But I think emotionally, it affected me. It affected me when you combine it with the alcohol, especially. So sometimes I suffer from anger issues, the low self-esteem, and sometimes that thing of objectifying women, it still comes back. Like even when I'm driving, maybe, and a woman drives past me, I still feel like I can conquer, and maybe I'm not even. You might end up driving in the wrong direction just to overtake her, and yeah, it has affected me. But again, like I said, for me, I think therapy would be lifetime. Because when I go to those therapy rooms, I get out of the room feeling like I'm reborn. Yeah, it's a good feeling. Yeah.
So, any stereotypes that you found people associate with sex addicts that is not true, that are not true?
Oh yes, that sex addicts. Yeah, there are so many. They are failures. It's something that is that you are cast. It's a choice. By the way, it's not a choice. At the beginning, it's a choice. Of course, you're having fun, but then you cross to a point where you're not in control anymore. It becomes a disease of the mind, or a disease of a disease of the mind. That sex addicts are just reckless. Actually, you find that it's like a decision they think through before they even think through it. They say, I won't do it. But there's that compulsiveness that pulls them to end up doing it. Yeah. That they don't have morals. It's a behavioral thing. You find even pastors who struggle from it. And some of them, because they are not able to go to brothels and all that, they masturbate, they watch porn. Yeah. There are so many. There are so many. Yeah. And if the misconceptions continue, we will not be able to help. There's the misconception that it only affects a certain category. The younger people. You'll find even old men in those brothels. That's why they are dying in brothels, using the blue pills. You find them saying that the prostitutes are losers. You find very highly educated people there. One would be searching for finances. Another one would just maybe she has or he has a mental disorder, or anxiety issues, or even bipolar. There are so many reasons people end up there. People end up in those brothels. There are so many. And there's the misconception that it's only the woman who is addicted. The man is just having fun. But actually, both could be addicted. Maybe the woman is not even addicted. It's the man who is addicted, looking for services. Yeah.
Okay. So, what advice would you give someone who is struggling with sex addiction currently?
You own up. I always say, if you're hiding, if you're doing something in secret, if you are keeping it away from your friends, from your spouse, your partner, or from the society, then you know it's wrong, and you know it's a problem. If you are masturbating behind closed doors, if you have mpango wa kando, if you are you're going to the brothels at night, and that's why most brothels will not be well lit. They are dark. They are dingy. Yeah. If you're going to those places and you're hiding, then there's a problem. You start by owning up. You talk to someone. You accept the problem, then you own up to someone else, and if possible, talk to a professional, a therapist. Okay, because what could be happening is you could be having an underlying issue that you're trying to feel or to numb with the sex, just like with alcohol and other substances. So if you're able to maybe identify the cause of maybe the anxiety, the low self-esteem, because for many of us, we ended up in the brothels because we had low self-esteem. And so when you're telling that woman to turn, lift your legs and do all this, you are feeling like a man. But actually, it's only that you have issues. And then you go back to your house and you want your wife to do the same things. And when she doesn't, maybe you even beat her up to feel like a man, and you even insult her, whereas you are not a woman, you can't do these things, and you feel more masculine because of that. What you don't know is that you have psychological problems that you should be dealing with. Yeah.
So what led you to start raising awareness about sex addiction?
When I started talking about alcohol addiction, because that's how I started them, I found so many people talking about, hey, can you tell us about sex addiction, because I am suffering, and they would DM me, and I thought at the beginning it felt a bit intimidating, opening up about your sex life. But then I pondered and wondered, if I can talk about my alcohol addiction and the things I used to do, why not talk about the sex addiction? And I started opening up because I felt like opening up or raising self-awareness would, in a way, maybe motivate someone who did want to say something to come out and seek help. There are so many good sex addiction counselors out there, but maybe they are not finding people to help because people are not willing to come out and speak. When I speak, just like I do about alcohol addiction, I know I'm not speaking to glorify myself. In fact, maybe I have lost friends because of it, or even family members castigate me because of it. But I still continue doing it because I know by speaking out, I'm helping somebody who didn't have the voice, who doesn't have the voice, to come out. Maybe DM me and I point them out to, or point them towards somebody who can help. That's how I look at it.
So where can people get this information about where you raise this awareness?
I'm on social media, Chris Kim Recovery. That's my handle on all platforms. Twitter, TikTok, Facebook, though not a lot, and then on YouTube. By just searching Chris Kim Recovery, or even checking my number on those platforms, you can talk to me. Even if I don't offer sex addiction therapy, I can direct you to somebody who can. Yeah. Sometimes maybe somebody suffering from such just wants somebody to speak to, because they don't even have the resources. So when they call and I have time, we just go through it, and maybe I give them a few tips on how to handle it, and they're good. They just wanted to open up and unburden themselves.
Okay. So you mentioned that your current partners, or the people you've dated are aware of your sex addiction. So what is the response?
The best thing is they reached out to me from maybe a platform where I was working on. I was talking about my life. So they already knew what they were coming into. And even in the past, even those I dated in the past, they knew what they were buying into. And I even told them or warned them, I have these issues and I'm still struggling with them. But you see, when you're in love and it's all lovey-dovey, you say, it's okay, there's no problem, that's in the past. But you see, it's never in the past as such. Things will come up, people will say stuff, they'll ask you, why are you dating somebody who is embarrassing himself, somebody who has such a past, a dark past, how do you know they'll never relapse?
So, what is your attitude towards sex now?
Oh yeah, I respect sex. I love sex,
Mm-hmm.
but I respect it, and I only have sex with the right person. And I even talk to younger people to respect sex, because for me it's godly.
Mm-hmm.
There's a spiritual aspect to it. Somebody told me that every time you have sex and I don't know about spirits and all that, and
Sometimes.
yeah, and I felt like, oh, that's intimidating, because if I were to count the number of times I've had sex without, with people I don't know, then that would make me a demon or something. But I know my connection with God and the peace I have with my God. Those are things in the past. So right now, the way I relate to sex is respect. I respect it. Yeah.
What would you advise a reformed sex addict or someone who's trying to reform? Yeah.
Deal with the underlying issue. What was what you are trying to numb or self-medicate using sex or any other substance is still there if you have not dealt with it. Sometimes it's a lifetime. It could be low self-esteem, for instance, or anxiety issues, or just you're trying to cope with something and you feel like sex is the best outlet, and without knowing it, you end up becoming addicted. So deal with the underlying issue. Don't just say, I'm done. I'll never go to a brothel again. I'll never pay for sex. You can stay like that for even years or months, but if you don't deal with the issue, for me it was low self-esteem. For me it was the shame and the guilt, and lack of self-confidence. And I felt like having sex with multiple partners was the best way to solve it. Yeah, and I'm dealing with it now.
Okay. So, where do you see yourself in 5 years?
In 5 years, I see myself in academia as a scholar. I hope I'll be Dr. Chris by then. All that I fantasize about that a lot. I'm still schooling, getting my licenses for addiction, adding to the knowledge I have about addiction. I hope to get a master's in the next 2 years. I hope to have completed my master's, start a doctorate. That's why I'm saying in 5 years, I hope I'll have that doctor title, because I used to swear that by that year I would have it, but you see what happened. The alcohol derailed everything, the sex. But now that everything is aligning, I hope I'll get there. Yeah, because I would like to disseminate the knowledge about addiction and make many, many more people aware of it.
I wish you all the best.
Okay, thank you.
How did you get yourself back up after all these years? Maybe career-wise, how do you get back to the road, to the path?
God, family is important, and self-awareness. I remain self-aware of where I've come from. I remain self-aware of where I am. I remain self-aware that I have a chronic illness, and because we say addiction is a chronic relapsing disease of the brain. So if I mess up, then I will go back. So I talked to my family. They supported me. I got back to business bit, but I knew my calling was in academia. So that's where now I'm headed. Nowadays I'm in addiction counseling, but eventually I want to end up in class because I'm a trained teacher. But now I don't want to go back to high school. That's past. I want to end up maybe somewhere in a college, or I'm already training in a college, but I want maybe to even write research on these addiction issues. And yeah.
Okay. So finally, describe yourself in 3 words.
Emotional, loving, fun.
Okay, that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Naima, and the team.